Welcome to Biz Talk. I'm back, and we just had the coronavirus relief package released. So what does that mean? That means a lot of you are going to be getting some checks in the not too distant future, but don't expect them until next month at the very earliest, because government doesn't work that fast. But they did, as far as passing legislation like this is record-breaking speed. As far as our government goes. I mean, really record-breaking speed. And a lot of you are going to be thinking about what next? Well, college is an option. And for some of you thinking about college or thinking about a trade school, I want to cover some of that. But let me tell you why I'm the one covering that right now. I used to work for Anthem College. I was in graduate placement, and yes, I know the college is defunct, and probably for good reason. But I very much tried to serve my students, and when the market shifted a little bit, I engineered their entrepreneurship program because CAD drafters and 3D designers, those jobs were going away because architects and engineers, these are the people that architects and engineers hired, and architects and engineers were losing their jobs. So I had to figure out a way to help my students. And on top of that, I've been tutoring for the past 10 years. We're talking multiple colleges, online. Some of my students went on campus. And all of my students have graduated very well, like improved to before they met me. And I'm very proud of the GPA increase of my students. But I've also had exposure to the inner workings of multiple different colleges. And at the end of this, I'm going to tell you a real-life horror story that if I didn't have evidence to back it up, I could be sued. So stay tuned. Let's check this out. All right, so college. You've got two choices. Are you going to go with a trade school or are you going to go with a college? Now, if you're on Facebook as much as I've been lately, then you've probably had something hit you up like, learn a degree in 6 months, learn a degree in 1 month, or learn this certification in coding. Okay, there's goods and bads about it. I worked in the IT circuit. Yes, I know my resume is kind of diverse, but I've also got the emails and documents and all of that to back it up. And the IT world is a good place to move if you're looking to restart or to start something new. Because, for example, if you're going to go into coding, go into Java. The reason being is, let's say somebody says, we'll teach you SQL. That's not a coding language, okay? That's a database language. It's not important. And I know I'm going to circle to the colleges and all of that stuff in a bit. Just let me cover this real quick. Some will say, become a video game designer and tester. Okay, I was a video game tester for like almost a year. I think it was 8 months with Xperis Games. If you want verification of that, look up State of Decay 2 and look up Crackdown 3. Those are both video games that were released. You'll see me in the credits as a QA tester. But getting into the video game circuit, I'll start with that because that's the one I'm most familiar with. I've been following it for all of my life, literally. So if you want to get into any sort of video game design or any sort of interactive program design, only go to those colleges that are saying, hey, we'll teach you how to do it. Only go to those if you want to start your own project. The reason I say that is it's an extraordinarily competitive field. Extraordinarily. Going to any of these trade schools that you see on Facebook or online, not the best option. And the reason being is I actually have a friend of mine, her name is Nefertiti. I'm not going to give you her last name, but she's in Arizona. And she actually works in video game design. Like, that's her thing. Video game design, she works more on the illustration and character design side, not the actual mechanics. And I mean, she's outstanding. She's been working in this field, like, she has 2 degrees in it. And she's been working in this field for a long time. She's still not a top designer or anything close to that. Don't walk into any sort of trade school saying, I'll teach you this, thinking that you're going to be walking out making 6 figures. Okay, that's not going to happen. Video games are the tier as far as what your income is going to be in an IT world. And again, I'm going to get back to colleges. Just let me cover this one. But let's say you want to get into actual coding. Coding is a field that's not going anywhere. Not at all. So if you get into video games, get into it to design your own, which, believe it or not, they're not terribly crazy to design. And if you've got a good idea, you can put it online and you can make a pretty penny. It's going to take some time to build, and make sure that you have the time to build it. Or at least take care of yourself while you're doing it, because I've never seen a video game built in less than 6 months. Never once. And those ones, they've kind of flopped, mostly. So what if you want to go into straight programming? The language that I would recommend, give me a second. All right. So the language that I would recommend is Java. Now, you've got a couple different coding languages out there. You've got C++, C#, .NET. You've got all of these different languages. But the one that is the most diverse, and the one where you can, like, I've actually had offers to code in Java for freelance, meaning you get an 8-month contract, you're getting paid $30 to $35 an hour at least. I was offered 40. No, it was 38. And I mean, this was just based off a resume, because companies want coders. They need coders. If you want to go through Amazon.com, that's all Java. Java is a worldwide language. Your phones right now, whether an Apple phone or a Droid phone, they're running off Java. So if you're going to learn a coding language and you've had no exposure to coding, then go for Java. Other languages, they're very similar, like C#, .NET. They're not too different from Java. They're different, don't get me wrong. That's why they have different coding languages. But Java is where pretty much everything is at, and it's not slowing down. And for people who are in that world, like, they would endorse what I'm saying. So if you know a friend that's in IT and say, hey, I'm thinking about going back to a trade school or something like that, and I want to learn Java, they're not going to shoot you down. Well, I mean, I guess if they're being evil, they will, but Java is just kind of a universal language. Following that, that's .NET. So Java is kind of universal. It's Oracle-based. So Oracle, if you ever heard IT and Oracle, like, that's how people, yeah, that's a big thing. Now .NET, that's Microsoft-based. So Microsoft's platforms and whatnot, you can rise a little bit quicker if you can get in with Microsoft or a Microsoft developer, but .NET, it's not great for freelance. So if you want versatility, if you want to be able to move and to maybe, let's say you're a single person and you want to go in Texas next month and you want to stay there for a year, that's possible with Java if you position yourself right. But I'm not going to go into positioning yourself right in this episode. But as far as the coding things go, if you're going to get into coding, get into Java. That's the safest bet of all of the ones that I've seen. Now, what about actual college? Well, you got a couple different options there too. I'm going to give you some cautions at the end and the real story, but if you have the option of attending live, start with community college. Until you get at least your bachelor's degree, start with community college, because that is the cheapest. No matter what, you're going to be paying. Whether it's out of pocket or student loans, you're going to be paying. So you need to position yourself into something that is going to pay. 10 years ago, an associate's degree was kind of like, hey, I graduated from high school. And that was back when I very first entered the workplace, the work market. And now a bachelor's degree is basically an associate's. So it's the lowest tier that anybody will accept for management or anything of that nature. You're expected to shell out the 40 grand to get that degree and to get to that point. 30 to 40 grand. And I'll talk about selecting colleges in a second, I promise. But a bachelor's degree is considered the lowest degree that any employer is looking for. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 job postings in the past 6 months that said, well, an associate's degree, like, nobody cares about that anymore. That's the same as, hey, I finished high school. And that's it. And it's going to eventually get to where, oh, you don't have a master's degree? Nah, we don't want you. It's going to eventually get to that point. In fact, fun fact here, associate's, bachelor's, master's, doctorate is journeyman or apprentice, journeyman, adept, and master. That's where the system came from. If you're going back into the old English 800 days. But when you're selecting a college, try to go to community college up until your bachelor's degree. And after that, you pretty much have to go to a university. Now, if you're choosing a university, number one, look for regionally accredited. Not nationally, regionally. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, follow me on this. So national accreditation means your credits aren't going to transfer as much and those schools aren't as valued. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, I think it was built that way, okay? Kind of like the Federal Reserve is just a bank. It's not federal in any way, shape, or form. They just grew big, but it's just a bank. It's not like part of the federal government. So sometimes names are misleading, and national accreditation, the credits will transfer less, and the degrees are generally, they hold less reputation. Now, go for regional accreditation in your college. If it's not regionally accredited, you can get the same price for the same or higher quality education somewhere else. So I would highly recommend going regional instead of national accreditation for the college. And just ask your admissions advisor, because you've all got to go through one. So ask your admissions advisor, hey, is it national or regionally accredited? If they say national, then step. Just end the conversation. I'm telling you this from experience because I've gone through NCCSCT, I believe, was our accreditation at Anthem College. ACCSCT or NCCSCT, I forget which. But yeah, we had very lengthy conversations on accreditation because students want to know about that. Now, when you choose a college, you've got the choice of campus or online. If you're working, naturally go online. Campus learning is if you want to absorb more information and build connections. Harvard Extension School is an online Harvard option, meaning you basically have to pay for the first, I believe, 2 or 3 classes, if I remember right, because I was exploring them myself for my next degree. But you have to pay for a few classes and then get at least a B, and then they'll accept you. And then you can go on full-time, you can use FAFSA loans and all of that to pay for it. But towards the end, you have to be on campus. You either have to spend 4 weekends or 1 semester on campus. They make it flexible for people that are working versus people that may not be. And the reason for that is networking. Like Harvard, they have a great education program. They really do. But the big value of Harvard isn't just in the name, it's in the networking before that. They want you on campus so that you're networking because that builds their value. And I talk about this in what's going to be later episodes for you guys because, you know, I'm filming from home instead of in a studio and I've still got to edit those videos. But yeah, being on campus allows you to network. Network with different professors, network with your peers that are going to be graduating too. That is a valuable commodity, okay? That's why alumni and being part of Phi Beta Kappa or one of those is valuable. Because you get to network with other people who graduated and you have that relationship with them. And they might be working in your same sector or a relative sector, okay? That's why you have that. That's why you have frats and all of that. It's not just for fun, it's for networking. So if you're going to ground campus for a university, network. That's the huge value of that one. But you're also going to have to dive into the information more. Your learning is going to increase because you're going to have to. Like, ground campus is a lot more strenuous than online campus. But if you're looking to get a degree, get the base of the education, meaning you don't get to ask the professor as many questions or explore theory around what you're studying, but you get to get the core mechanics, then online is a good option. And online is very flexible. Most of the colleges I've seen online, they will, for my students, they have you do an initial discussion board post twice a week, and then you have to respond to for various different students, but they have to be substantial posts, not like, I like bread too, or I like this too. This was very interesting. Great post. Okay, that's not a substantial post. And that's a meme that goes around for college students. Like, we all laugh at it because there's always somebody who does that. And you want to really take advantage of those discussion boards if you can. But generally you have one assignment per week, like an actual big assignment, which isn't really that big. Literally, if you go to an on-site university, you have to do those size of assignments 2, 3, 4 times a week. Okay, that's a daily assignment. But online, for a lot of online colleges, that's a weekly assignment for you. So you get this one big assignment, and you've got to dedicate some time throughout the week to complete it. That's basically online college. A couple discussion boards and once a week assignments. And then you've got tests here and there, because I mean, tests and quizzes, they exist, but they don't exist as frequently. Like, if you're worried about all of the tests and quizzes and all of that, don't. I haven't seen too many at all. I've seen a couple times where you have a test or a quiz once or twice per semester, or I'm sorry, per quarter. It's very infrequent. When people refer to online college as a bird college, kinda. Like, when it comes to on campus versus online, kinda. But on campus, you also have access to, like, tutors, to other students to, hey, you want to come over to my dorm and let's talk? You have access to support, whereas online, you don't have as much access to support. It's very distant support, so there's not that personal touch, if you will. And you won't find as many tutors or as many people, like, as eager to help you. It's a different quality of support. And I would say it's a lesser quality. Just from my own experience as a student and from the experience of my students. So when it comes to online versus on campus you'll learn more, you'll be able to network more. Online is basically just you want to get through it and get just the credentials, the piece of paper that says, hey, you know something. Okay, that's online. But you also want to be careful with online colleges. And this is the part where I get into a real life crazy story. So, you know those students that were, I guess, defrauded by all these colleges that were sued and whatnot? I was one of them. So, Career Education Corporation, if you look at all of the lawsuits against colleges like University of Phoenix, Colorado Technical University, so on and so forth, Anthem College, those were part, if memory serves, those were all part of Career Education Corporation. That's an umbrella corporation. And I'll talk about that in a later episode in this series. But there's this thing called Career Education Corporation, CEC, that owns these other colleges. And I went to one of their colleges. When you go to the on-site for those colleges, or if you look up reviews for those colleges like on-site, somebody who goes on campus, the reviews are usually pretty shining. Like University of Phoenix, CTU, Colorado Technical University, so on and so forth. Yeah, those are pretty good ones, right? But then when you look at the online reviews, if you take the time to dig, which some of them are hoping you don't, then you see all of a sudden 1 star, not 5 stars. And then you just start hearing horror stories. In my case, I would call in probably once a quarter, if not every other quarter. And I'd just, ask questions regarding a stipend back when I was living in Chicago. I called in and I asked a few questions. I called 7 times, I got 5 different answers. Their financial aid staff wasn't the best, and I went to Colorado Technical University, and I have the phone records. So, CTU, you come after me, I'm releasing the phone records. Yay! But, yeah, I called 7 times, I got 5 different answers, and that was a couple years ago. And that was what led me to stepping back and basically withdrawing from that college, because I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And I thought about going to another college. I wasn't too impressed with some of the other ones I saw. I had the option of University of Phoenix and Grand Canyon University, which, by the way, Grand Canyon, awesome college. I just didn't feel it was right for me, just because I wanted to really dive into psychology at the time. So I went back to CTU online, and apparently I was told, okay, you're going to be fine to graduate, you're fine to graduate, you're fine to graduate. And then one day, a call comes. I make a call and they say, no, you're not fine to graduate. You're going to owe us for, I believe it's 9 classes, meaning like 1 or 2, that's a clerical error. That stuff happens. 9? It's 8 or 9. Yeah, wow, okay, how did that happen? So that, and from that, I was forced to either withdraw from that college, and basically my aggregate limit was reached, so I couldn't use financial aid, or FAFSA, federal student, federal assistance, whatever the acronym stands for. Basically, college loans. I couldn't use those anymore because they had stretched them to the max. My stipends never turned off from when I was in Chicago, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting money back, cool. Well, they misinformed me, and of course they never admitted to it, despite a year worth of battle with them. But I was misinformed, and I was forced into, okay, if I want to complete my degree, I have to go back and go with them and sign a payment arrangement to pay them for their mistake. That literally happened. I have emails and proof, but it gets better. So I ended up, and this isn't to scare all of you off. It really isn't. It's just, I'm going to give you some guidelines to look for. A career education corporation college is not one that I will personally attend. I mean, again, this is me telling you my story right now. I have to say that for legal terms because I can't make recommendations on a CEC college. I could say like, hey, you know those colleges that were sued? Most of them were career education corporation, like the big ones you heard of. So, fast forward. I signed this agreement with them, and I'm basically stuck with them through the degree. Okay. And I was working and going online and all of that. They would call me early in the morning. And when I say early in the morning, it started out at about 8 o'clock in the morning. At this time, I was taking a hiatus from consulting just to basically reinforce my network. I drove for Uber and Lyft, and I did it at certain points of the day in certain areas. And I did connect with high executives from multiple different companies. It was profitable. And thankfully it was profitable. But they would wake me up in the morning. It started out at 8 o'clock, but it went as early as 6 in the morning. Literally. And it doesn't matter how many times I wrote them and said, hey, can you adjust my time zone so you don't wake me up? Because I was driving up until sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning. And 3 hours of sleep is not nice. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't change it. They wouldn't update it. Nobody was paying attention. And so I get 3 calls back to back at 6 o'clock in the morning. First one, I said, who are you? And then I hung up. Then they called back, same person. And then they called back. And after the third one, I said, you're done. I called up my student advisor and I used the word D-A-M-N. Okay? I don't like to cuss on camera if I can help it. But I used that word while relaying, okay, why are you waking me up in that D morning with these calls after I've Had your people put notes and everything in my file, so on and so forth. Stop waking me up. I need sleep. Because I needed to get 2 more hours of sleep before I picked up executives at the airport. Long story short, I was threatened with expulsion. I was literally threatened with expulsion. And I did violate the code of conduct by using that one word at 6 a.m. in the morning when I left my message. And I have the call records for that too. But where it went from there is they kept doing it. They kept doing it. I had to issue a cease and desist order for just one department at Colorado Technical University Online. And I still have the record of that too. I had to issue them a cease and desist. So what does all this mean? What does this story build up to? Look at the online reviews as well as the campus reviews for any college you go to. Grand Canyon University, that is a Christian college, and they very much act like it. Like, just super nice people, kind, everything. My current student goes there. And, I mean, I love their curricula. It wasn't like CTU where literally I used to troll teachers. I'll give you one more example, okay, one more example. They went on to ebooks about, let's say, a semester or two, like basically just before I went to Chicago. And that was the majority of my degree. Like 2/3 of my degree was ebooks, right? Only I never really opened one. I opened 2 ebooks just to get the question, but I never had to study any of the ebooks. None of them. Not at all. I was doing everything off the dome because by then I'd been, tutoring for a couple years, but even so, I should have had to study something. I should have. I didn't have to. I really didn't. I had to refresh my memory, and I had to look up and learn things from other places, but I never had to open up any of the ebooks, except to, hey, what does this question say that this professor is saying? And I've trolled so many professors at CTU, it's not even funny. But some colleges are bird course colleges, meaning you're just going to fly through it. And if I ever got into management again, and I saw CTU on somebody's resume, I wouldn't give it that much stock because I went there, I'm an alumni. So, alumnus. So, but then Grand Canyon University, yeah, I would very much give somebody value from that college because I've seen what their curricula looks like. Purdue Online, they absorbed Kaplan College. If you see Purdue, like you can go to Purdue Online, like yes. And they absorbed Kaplan for their online teaching system, but it's still Purdue. I mean, they've been banking to try and be Ivy League for how many decades? Like Purdue is very well recognized and respected, and they're not going to risk that. So when they absorbed Kaplan University, a college that wasn't exactly doing the greatest, they did it for their online teaching system. So Purdue's curricula, Kaplan's deployment method. So you can go to Purdue Online for about the same price as any other college right now. And then same thing with Harvard Extension School. You have to pay for a couple classes, prove that you can hack it, because that's going to be a more in-depth program. So if you're working full-time and you're raising kids and all of that, Harvard Extension School may not be the best option for you because you are going to have to do some time on campus to graduate, and it's Harvard. But then you've got Purdue and you've got Grand Canyon University, and I know University of Phoenix was sued in the past. They are doing better and they are still recognized as a decent college. But do your research. Look at their on-campus reviews and their online reviews. Because if their online reviews are 1 stars, there is a reason for that. So you might want to read through some of those reviews, see what people say, and then maybe explore more colleges. But to recap, we talked about the Facebook things or basically the trade schools that you're going to see in your emails on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. Okay, those aren't bad. They're just a different direction. And if you're going to go into something like computer science and coding, anything that says A+ certification, A plus means computer hardware and networking. So if it says A plus, then that means they're going to teach you how to work on computer hardware and networking and installation of and modification of operating systems. Okay, that's that part. So if you want to start your own computer company, like a repair or sale company, like I had, then A plus certification is the way to go. But they say C# and Java and SQL and .NET. Okay, and I know I keep bringing up SQL. SQL is not a real language. It's a combination. IT talk, but go for Java. If you get the option to study any of those, Java is the one that is the most booming, and it's the one that will pay the most out the gate, and it's not going anywhere. Your phone apps, your computer apps, your online apps, that's Java. So learning to code in Java is a great way to go if you're into those trade schools. And if you're into a different sector, let's say you want to get into drones, do your research into that college and what people have said about it. Because generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of trade schools unless it's teaching coding. But things are changing. Trade schools are on the rise. And that's because colleges aren't doing the greatest. That they really aren't doing the greatest for their students or any of that. But if you are going to a college, do community college first if you can. That's going to save you a buck or two. And make sure it is regionally accredited over nationally accredited. Your credits are going to transfer more with regional accreditation than national, especially if you're going to community college, but those usually transfer pretty well. It's just for any other college, regional accreditation is more respected. And then if you're going to, the full-on college, make sure that you've got the time to allocate for on-campus because it's going to be more strenuous than online. Online is built for people who are working. It's a lightweight way to learn. Here you're going to learn more and you're going to engage in more conversation. You're going to ask the professor more questions on campus. Online, not so much. You'll find some neat professors with a few neat anecdotes and so on and so forth, but you may not have to even sit through lectures. In some colleges, you don't even have to sit through lectures. They just give you the assignment, they give you the reading materials, and go for it. And generally with online, you have 2 discussion board posts plus a primary post per week, and that's the minimum for discussion boards. And then you've got 1 weekly assignment usually. And then of course at the end you're going to have a capstone just like any other college, and you're going to have probably assessment quizzes and tests and all of that. You're going to have those. I haven't seen this very much, but midterms and finals, I don't see that too much with online colleges. I've seen it with 2. But the big thing about any sort of major college is look at the reviews. If you see on campus 5-star, 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 and then you see the online one 1-star, 1-star, 2 stars, 1 star, read those reviews because that is a red flag if you're going to be going to online. On campus is so much different than online. Look at those reviews. Look them up. Look up your college. Because this is going to be a lifelong decision. But right now is the time to do it. We've got these stimulus checks coming in. And I mean, the economy is kind of at a standstill. People are being told to stay at home. And anybody that's smart and listens to actual great advice from healthcare experts is going to stay home for a few weeks. Like, that's the thing, is social distancing is going to be going on for a while. And that's because we want to save our vulnerable populations. I've got people that I love that are vulnerable. So keep your head up, keep your faith up. And I hope this was educational for you. I mean, I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't know about it. And just be safe out there. Good luck if you want to go back to college. And yeah, it's cold outside. So I'm going to be closing it off. That was an awkward closing, wasn't it?